Hari Ramadava Kunjabiha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Bolo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Brajajanandana Jasodhanandana Brajajanandana Yamunatira Banachari Yamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Madhava Kunjabihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Brajajanandana Jasodhanandana Brajajanandana Yamunatira Banachari Yamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Madhava Kunjabihari Srila Prabhupada ki Gaur Premanandi Rajabhumi, these children are some of your students?
Yeah, we used to have class here
Oh, really?
2 years back. But nowadays we are not coming, but we used to have a class. For 2 years? 1 year? 1.5 years.
So you too, I'm looking at the two children here. You two know something about Krishna, right? Yeah? You see that picture on the wall over there? That's Krishna performing a particular pastime, and there's a name for Krishna for that pastime. Do you know that name? The name of Krishna where he's stealing butter. Starts with an M. M. Makhan Chor. Chor is he's stealing. And Makhan means butter, the butter thief. Now, why would Krishna steal butter? Because he likes. Because he likes butter, so he steals it. But Krishna is the source of everything, right? He's the source of everything. When Mother Jasoda looked inside Krishna's mouth to see if he had eaten dirt, what did she see? The whole universe. Everything is within Krishna. He saw the whole universe. I can hear. He saw the whole universe. And he even saw Mother Jasoda looking inside Krishna's mouth, So there. Krishna, within Krishna is everything. So why is he stealing butter? He liked butter. But when Krishna would go to the homes of the gopis that had butter, they would offer it to him. Please take some. He'd say no. So they complained to Mother Jasoda. It's not like he just likes butter. He likes to steal. Why does he like to steal? That's not a good quality. That's a bad quality. Stealing is a bad quality. But he stole. So why did he steal? It was a pastime where he was inspiring Mother Jasoda to scold him. Because little boys and girls, they don't like to be scolded by mom and dad. But when mom and dad scold, it's out of love. It's part of the parents' love for the child when they scold them. And Krishna knew that. So he did naughty things to have Mother Jasoda scold him. But she didn't. She just embraced him and said, why do you do things like this? So then he figured out a way to get her to scold him. He ate dirt. Or at least he had the cowherd boys say that he ate dirt. Whether he ate dirt or not, we don't know. But so then she scolded him. What? You ate dirt. And what did Krishna say? I didn't eat dirt. They're lying. And Mother Jasoda said, they're not enemies, they're your friends. And besides, there's your elder brother, Balaram. So he's not going to lie. You don't believe me? You can look inside my mouth. So she looked inside his mouth and she saw within Krishna's everything. That's a nice pastime. Out of many, many nice pastimes. So then what did Krishna do? Krishna wanted to take away her sense of his being the source of everything, that within him is everything. He wanted next for her to express another kind of motherly affection, and that was she just forgot. He covered her with his Yogamaya potency, and she forgot. And she started then just thinking, it's not possible. He's not some divine being. He can't, when he's out of my sight, he'll start to cry. And when he's hungry, he cries. So he's not the source of everything. Although she saw that he's the source of everything. Her motherly affection was stronger. Krishna wanted her motherly affection, including getting scolded, out of affection, of course. So that was in Krishna's childhood. He was very small. And after that, there's many other childhood pastimes which we won't go into because that's our evening discussion. But as he got a little older, he saved Nanda Maharaj when Nanda Maharaj was being swallowed by a serpent. You know that story? Looking to Dad. You're not sure?
Yeah, I did not hear.
Okay, I'm interacting with them. So allow me to interact with them. So one time on Shivaratri is a day when everyone celebrates Lord Shiva. Shivaratri, a big festival. So the residents of Vrindavan went to a very famous place where there's a temple of Lord Shiva and Uma. And they went with bullock carts loaded with paraphernalia to perform the festival, and it took all day. And it was not so far from Vrindavan, but it was far enough. By the end of the day, they decided, let's just take rest. We'll go back in the morning. It was actually a 3-day festival. So the boys went over there because boys like to play and they don't want to have their play interfered with. So Krishna was over there with his friends. And the cowherd men, they were over there. And Nanda Maharaj was alone, just for his privacy's sake. And he took rest right on the ground. And in the middle of the night, a big serpent came. A boa constrictor. You know what that is? It's a type of snake that they just swallow something whole and then close their mouth and then digest that, whatever it is that they swallow. So he started swallowing from his feet. He started swallowing Nanda Maharaj. He was big. Nanda Maharaj was big, but the serpent was really big. And so he woke up and called out, Krishna! Now that's his son, but it was told during the name-giving ceremony for Krishna when he was not even 45 days old yet. It was told by the astrologer that one of the things he said was, your son will be powerful like Narayana. He didn't say he was Narayana. He didn't say he wasn't Narayana. He just said he'll be powerful like Narayana, and with those powers he'll protect the residents of Vrindavan, so take good care of him. So he remembered those words of the astrologer, Gargamuni, or Gargarishi was his name. So, Krishna, help! And everybody woke up. They took sticks and were beating on the snake. Some of them were from the fire. They were still burning, and they were hitting it with burning sticks. The serpent didn't let go, kept swallowing Nanda Maharaj. So Krishna came. And with his left foot, he just touched the body of the serpent. The serpent became liberated from his curse because he was a resident of Vidyadhara Loka and had been cursed because he offended some sages. It's a long story. And so he had been cursed to become a serpent because he was envious. So after that pastime comes a really long section where Krishna is still young, but he engaged evenings playing upon his flute and calling all the residents of Vrindavan were enjoying with him, and especially the gopis, and they enjoyed their pastimes together. And then the following day, the gopis would feel very sad. Now, you would think if you're going to go to Krishna Loka, you're going to be with Krishna, you're not going to feel sad, because that's what we do over here, and you're not supposed to be sad over there. But it's an ecstasy. It's not the sadness that we know. It's deep thought, concentrated thought on Krishna. So the gopis, during the daytime, because Krishna would go out with the cows and the cowherd boys, and they have a great time. But the poor gopis, they're back in Vrindavan feeling separation from Krishna. So you know what they did? They spoke to one another all day long about Krishna, remembering activities of Krishna, and especially remembering the sound of his flute. Because when Krishna would play upon his flute, it wasn't just like musical notes that would come out, but all kinds of things would come out. Like he would call the cows with his flute. And when the cows were called with his flute, the trees and the creepers would hear the sound of Krishna's flute calling for the cows. And they would just become ecstatic. Just the sound of Krishna. The trees and the creepers. They would abundantly produce fruits and flowers. They would cry tears of sap coming from their tree bodies. Their bodies would tremble. They were in ecstasy just hearing the sound of Krishna's flute. So the gopis were thinking about Krishna, thinking if even the trees and the creepers are moved like this, then what to speak of us? And so that's where we're reading from. This chapter 35 from Canto 10. This is Krishna's pastimes being remembered by the gopis. Because the earlier sections, it's all about Nanda and Jasoda, and the cowherd men and the cowherd women, and their feelings of parental affection for little Krishna. But then as Krishna gets a little bit older, not too much older, he's still very young, the cowherd boys, there's like chapters and chapters and chapters of what the cowherd boys do, and their feelings of love for Krishna as in friendship. So parental affection, friendship, and here's the feelings of the gopis towards Krishna and how they understand even the rocks, when they hear the sound of Krishna's flute, they melt. And the river that's flowing stands still. Everything behaves in a very strange way just by hearing the sound of Krishna's flute. And the chapter is introduced by our acharyas explaining these verses are in pairs. So there's the introductory verse, and then 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, 6 and 7, like that. And they're not just one continuous flow of events, but throughout the course of the day, sometimes it's Krishna's dealings with Mother Jasoda, and they're remembering Krishna's dealings with Mother Jasoda. Sometimes it's Krishna calling the cows, sometimes. They're just absorbed in thought of Krishna, talking with one another about Krishna. It's Krishna, Krishna, Krishna all the way. And they're feeling ecstasy. Even while they're feeling sadness of separation, they're feeling ecstasy at the same time. There's contradictory feelings. It happens sometimes like that. So now I just have to find the page. Okay. Okay. Here we go. This is Jiva Goswami commenting on when the trees and the creepers hear the sound of Krishna playing out upon his flute. So here's Jiva Goswami writing, Lord Krishna's exalted Vrindavan pastimes are of many kinds. For example, there are pastimes where he reveals his power and opulence, Aishvarya, like showing the universe within him, lifting Govardhan Hill, and so forth. Rescuing Nanda from the serpent. He shows power, sometimes. Such as the pastime where he shows that many millions of universes are present in his eternal spiritual form. That's with Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma stole the calves and cowherd boys and put them in the cave. You know that pastime? Yeah. So when he went back, he saw the calves and the cowherd boys having lunch with Krishna. He thought, what? Went back in the cave and they were in the cave. Then he went back and there they were having lunch. And then he showed so many universes, along with forms of Narayan and so forth. He was showing Aishvarya. There are also his pastimes of compassion. Karunya, such as his pastime of showing compassion to Putana and allowing her to become like his own mother, Putana. You know her, right? Yes, Putana? When Krishna was newly born, she came dressed like a devotee, but she was a witch. She wanted to kill Krishna. So he accepted her as mother and liberated her. She got a position of being an assistant to Mother Yasoda in Krishna Loka. She came to kill him, but she came like a mother, so he gave her that position. That's mercy. She could have gotten spanked big time, but she got mercy. There are also his pastimes of sweetness, madhurya, which are described in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam. So now there's a whole list of Krishna's sweet pastimes. This is from chapter 8, text 22. This is Krishna's crawling as a little boy. When Krishna and Balaram, with the strength of their legs, crawled in muddy places, created in Braja by cow dung and cow urine, their crawling resembled the crawling of serpents, meaning they didn't go in a straight line. Serpents don't go point A to point B, they go like this. So Krishna and Balaram are crawling, and they're moving like that, zigzag. And the sound of their ankle bells was very charming. Very much pleased by the sound of other people's ankle bells. They used to follow those people as if going to their mothers. But when they saw that these were other people, they became afraid and returned to the real mothers, Yashoda and Rohini. Sweet pastimes of childhood. Lord Krishna's sweetness is also seen in these words, same chapter 8, Canto 10. Our dear friend Yashoda, your son, sometimes comes to our homes before the milking of the cows and releases the calves. And when the master of the house becomes angry, your son merely smiles. Sometimes he devises some process by which he steals palatable curd, butter, and milk, which he then eats and drinks. This is the stealing pastime. Remember the name? Makanchor? Makanchor. When the monkeys assemble, he divides it with them. And when the monkeys have their bellies so full they won't take any more, he breaks the pots. Sometimes, if he gets no opportunity to steal butter and milk from a house, he'll be angry at the householders, and for his revenge, he will agitate the small children by pinching them. Then, when they begin crying, Krishna will go away. That's naughty. He's enjoying. And they're enjoying. They're coming, complaining, but they're actually smiling, and because they love Krishna so much, they can't become anything other than happy with him. Again, Krishna's sweetness is from another chapter, chapter 11. This is Krishna's now little boy, and he's just starting to toddle around. The gopis would say, if you dance, my dear Krishna, then I shall give you half a sweetmeat. By saying these words or by clapping their hands, all the gopis encouraged Krishna in different ways. At such times, although he was supremely powerful personality of Godhead, he would smile and dance according to their desire, as if he were a wooden doll in their hands. Sometimes he would sing very loudly at their bidding. In this way, Krishna came completely under the control of the gopis. Next, Lord Krishna's sweetness is also seen in these words of Srimad Bhagavatam, later in the same canto, chapter 11. Sometimes Krishna and Balaram would play on their flutes. Sometimes they would throw ropes and stones, devised for getting fruits from the trees. This is cowherd boys playing. Sometimes they would throw only stones, and sometimes, their ankle bells tinkling, they would play football with fruits, like Baal and Amalaki. Sometimes they would cover themselves with blankets and imitate cows and bulls and fight with one another, roaring loudly. And sometimes they would imitate the voices of the animals. In this way, they enjoyed sporting exactly like two ordinary human children. Sweetness with boys. Next is chapter 12. This is the Damodar Leela. Shukadev says, O king, one day Krishna, this is not chapter 12. That's 9 and 10. One day Krishna decided to take his breakfast as a picnic in the forest. Having risen early in the morning, he blew his bugle made of horn and woke up all the cowherd boys and calves with its beautiful sound. Then Krishna and the boys, keeping their respective groups of calves before them, proceeded from Brajabhumi to the forest. And chapter 15, another pastime of sweetness. Sometimes the honeybees in Vrindavan became so mad with ecstasy that they closed their eyes and began to sing. Lord Krishna, moving along the forest path with his cowherd boyfriends and Baladev, would then respond to the bees by imitating their singing, while his friends sang about his pastimes. Sometimes Lord Krishna would imitate the chattering of a parrot, sometimes with a sweet voice the call of a cuckoo, sometimes the cooing of swans. Sometimes he vigorously imitated the dancing of a peacock, making his cowherd boyfriends laugh. Sometimes, with a voice as deep as the rumbling clouds, he would call out with great affection the names of the animals who had wandered far from the herd, thus enchanting the cows and the cowherd boys. That's the chapter 12 is what precedes the killing of the serpent demon, Aghasura. Chapter 15, Krishna's sweetness is also seen in these words. Quote, Lord Krishna's hair, powdered with the dust raised by the cows, was decorated with a peacock feather and forest flowers. The Lord glanced charmingly and smiled beautifully, playing upon his flute while his companions chanted his glories. The gopis, all together, came forward to meet him, their eyes very eager to see him. So he's coming home at the end of the day from the pasturing ground. Lord Krishna's sweetness is also seen in these words, chapter 18. As Krishna danced, some of the boys accompanied him by singing, and others by playing flutes, hand cymbals, and buffalo horns, while still others praised his dancing. Again, Krishna's sweetness is seen, chapter 20. The cows had to move slowly because of their weighty milk bags. But they quickly ran to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as soon as he called them, their affection for him causing their udders to become wet. Lord Krishna's sweetness, chapter 21. The cowherd girls said, "O friends, those eyes that see the beautiful faces of the sons of Maharaj Nanda are certainly fortunate. As these two sons enter the forest, surrounded by their friends, driving the cows before them, they hold their flutes to their mouths and glance lovingly about upon the residents of Vrindavan. For those who have eyes, we think there is no greater object of vision." Krishna's sweetness is also seen in these words, chapter 23. His complexion was dark blue, and his garment golden, wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, sprigs of flower buds, and a garland of forest flowers and leaves. He was dressed just like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon the shoulder of a friend, and the other twirled a lotus. Lilies graced his ears, hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling. Quite a picture, huh? Lord Krishna's sweetness is shown in chapter 29. Sri Badarayani said, that's Shukadeva Goswami, Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of all opulences, yet, upon seeing the autumn nights scented with blossoming jasmine flowers, he turned his mind toward loving affairs. To fulfill his purposes, he employed his internal potency. Lord Krishna's sweetness is shown in chapter 35. That's what we're discussing. When Mukunda vibrates the flute he has placed to his lips, stopping its holes with his tender fingers, he rests his left cheek on his left arm and makes his eyebrows dance. At that time, the demigoddesses traveling in the sky with their husbands, the Siddhas, become amazed. As those ladies listened, they are embarrassed to find their minds yielding to the pursuit of lusty desires. And in their desires, they are unaware that the belts of their garments are loosening. What more need to be said? Devotees who, in their hearts love the Lord will easily understand all these descriptions. Now, that's the writing is from a section. Jiva Goswami wrote a commentary on 3 commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, and one of those 3 was by topic. And it's the name of it is called the Sandarbhas. It's a particular style of literature, and the final of those 6 is Priti Sandarbha, the fruit of loving dealings, of prema, looks like this. So he's describing it. As we just read. From the same text, the excellence of Krishna's manifested pastimes in Vrindavan are of many types. Some show, we showed this, okay. Okay. So later on in this chapter 35, O pious mother Yashoda, your son who is expert in all the arts of herding cows has invented many new styles of flute playing. When he takes his flute to his bimba red lips and sends forth the tones of the harmonic scale in variegated melodies, Brahma, Shiva, Indra, and other chief demigods listen repeatedly to the sound. That's this chapter 35. The verses starting with this verse should not be considered fickleness in front of others, contradictory to the gopis' bhava or ecstasy, since the pairs of verses are separate discussions. They describe Krishna's sweetness in general when they gathered in front of Yashoda for certain verses. Thus it is stated in this verse that Indra and others become bewildered also. It is not like the following, where the gopis discuss among themselves, revealing their transcendental affection explicitly, which is later in this chapter. Thus, we gopis, who become agitated by Cupid when Krishna playfully glances at us, stand as still as trees. Other persons show similar ecstasy. So we read, at that time, it was Krishna's leaving his house in the morning, playing upon his flute, in that threefold bending posture, calling the cows to come. And in the sky, it's mentioned, from the, they wanted to see Krishna coming back from the forest, but he entered into his home, or the palace of Nanda and Yashoda, too quickly, so they didn't see. So some of them wanted to stay, so they spent the whole night in their vimanas with their husbands, just to see Krishna, just to see him. And then in the morning when he comes out, he's calling the cows. And he's standing in such a position that it's said his left cheek is over by his left shoulder, and he's holding his flute like this, so his head is a little tilted, and it looks like he's looking up in the air, and they think, oh, maybe he's looking at us. At that time, the demigoddesses traveling in the sky with their husbands become amazed. They were waiting all night for him to come in the early, early morning, just as the sun is rising, because that's when they go out to take care of the cows. And they see and they hear, and they're just totally amazed. The following is another expression of Krishna's sweetness. O sinless Yashoda, this is the gopis. They're songs of the gopis, just thinking of Krishna and separation. The son of Maharaj Nanda has festively enchanted his attire with a jasmine garland, and he is now playing along the Yamuna in the company of the cows and cowherd boys, amusing his dear companions. I just do a little bit. It goes on because this is the chapter of the gopis to pacify their feelings of separation. They're just remembering Krishna in different ways, and they're remembering Krishna, how he associates with Mother Yasoda, how he associates with the river Jamuna, how he associates with the other cowherd boys, how he associates with the cows. And they're appreciating the good fortune of the others. They're feeling separation, but their remembrance of Krishna's exchanges of love with others are also filling their hearts. They're pacifying their loving hearts. I think we'll end with this. This is when Krishna was with the gopis performing rasa dance, but then they were feeling a little bit proud. Oh, here we are with this good fortune of associating with Krishna. So Krishna detected in their heart there was some pride. Do you know what he did? When Krishna sees pride in the heart of his devotee, he just disappeared. He suddenly, poof, just left. So then the gopis are, oh, Krishna's gone. They're feeling separation again. Oh, all-powerful one, you should not speak in this cruel way. Do not reject us, who have renounced all material enjoyment to render devotional service to your lotus feet. Reciprocate with us, O stubborn one, just as the primeval Narayan reciprocates with all of his devotees and their endeavors for liberation. Though it appears unsuitable to pray for his association by taking a low position, it will be established later that it conveys the highest rasa, since it will be explained with double meaning indicating refusal of Krishna's invitation. So I think we're going to end with that. There some practical lessons. Few. They're very humble. At the same time, they're very enthusiastic, which sounds like stop, go. Those are two different commands. Stop, go. So humility has a way of checking one's efforts. Oh, I'm so tiny. I'm so insignificant. I'm so far from my goal. So that's humility can, in the material sense, can be like kind of a low energy place. But the spiritually elevated persons, they're profoundly humble and at the same time very enthusiastic. And it's, enthusiastic not for something material, because they're elevated souls. They've gone beyond attraction for material things. They're simply interested in spiritual things. In spiritual things, the source of all things is Krishna. So the residents of Vrindavan, we've been hearing in earlier chapters about the parents, not only mother and father, but the elders, and their strong affection for Krishna, as parents might have for little boys. Even their own children, they have more affection for Krishna than for their own children. Very unique. And his cowherd boyfriends. Chapters and chapters and chapters. They're playful. At the same time, like here's a nice example. One of we read about it briefly. One of the pastimes of the boys would sometimes be wrestling. Now, girls don't like to wrestle so much like boys like to wrestle, but little boys like to wrestle. And they had a system that the person who lost the wrestling match had to carry the one who won the wrestling match on his shoulders. So Radharani has a brother. Did you know that? Radharani has a brother. Radharani has a brother. His name is Sridham. And Sridham would often be paired up wrestling with Krishna, and Sridham would always win. And Sridham would say, "What kind of a big man are you? Everyone says you're so powerful, but you always lose. And you always have to carry me on your shoulders." Krishna likes being defeated by his loving devotees. He likes being teased by his loving devotees. "Oh, you're not such a strong person, after all." He likes. So there's different kinds of loving exchange between Krishna and his different devotees. But even when they say things like Sridham said, it's not like ego, it's loving exchange. As young boys, even in the material world, will sometimes say things to one another. So what to speak when consciousness is pure? To say things in a playful manner, like the gopis were saying things to Mother Yasoda. "Your son, you know what he does?" And then they would go on describing. And Krishna's sitting right there, right in front of Mother Yasoda. And they're laughing and smiling. They're speaking like they're unhappy. You know, in the world, the material world, people don't do like that. But in the spiritual world, they're recognizing his mischievous ways. And Mother Yasoda would say, "Well, you know, you're very intelligent. Why don't you figure out a way to have him not steal?" Said, "Well, we try, but you know, if when we do, then he figures out a way because he's so intelligent, he's so clever." And when our husbands come and they confront him, he just says, "I'm not the thief, you're the thief." And what's he gonna do? Because the men, they also love Krishna. She said, "Well, if he's so eager for butter, just give him some. We want to give him some." And he says, "No, because he likes to steal." No, those are intimate dealings. Krishna doesn't have to steal anything because he's the source of everything. It's already his, and the abundance is without limit because he has unlimited potencies. He can produce millions of tons of anything he wants with just like that. But it's loving exchange with his devotees. So there's eagerness for his association and humility at the same time. That this is found in our acharyas, our great teachers. They're profoundly humble. At the same time, very, very enthusiastic to reach, to connect with Krishna. So we're not residents of the spiritual world. We're not great acharyas. We're little people. But those same two principles, how it applies to us, is with a spiritual conception, we should recognize we're very tiny, quite insignificant, but dear to Krishna nonetheless, although we're very insignificant because we're his children, we're his part and parcel, living entity, his children. And our eagerness to reach Krishna isn't what it could be, but the more that eagerness to reach Krishna grows, and one of the reasons for doing what we're doing is hearing about the attractiveness of Krishna and his loving exchanges and his beautiful features and so forth and so on, is to awaken that consciousness of what a real happiness, a real position, a real loving exchanges are in the spiritual realm, in association with others, but Krishna is at the center. Awakening that loving attraction comes by hearing about the lovable object. Pious people accept that there's God, something that Prabhupada would say. God is good and God is great, but how great God is, that they do not know. And so hearing the greatness and the goodness and the loving quality of personality of Godhead, and it's not at all monotonous. It's very, very interesting. His mischievous activities and his playing with the cowherd boys and so forth. It's quite extraordinary. And this is God in his activities with his loving associates. This is what it's like. This is what he does. This is what they're experiencing with him. It's a pretty good travel advertisement. Good marketing. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from his devotees about Krishna. So we'll continue, I guess, tomorrow morning. This was our morning topic, so we just had it at this time instead of the morning class. See if there's some discussion, and then we'll go to the online questions. Anybody here have something you'd like to ask?
So I would like to ask one question. Like Bhagavatam was written by Srila Vyasadeva. So to this extent he narrated all the emotions and everything. So he was able to feel all those things. That is my curiosity. Because he was not seeing in person all these things, but he was able to write all these things.
Yeah, that's right. You know the answer.
Yeah. So through his mystic eyes, he was able to see.
Well, he has one of the qualities. There are others that have this quality. Tri Kala Gya. Kala means time. The three phases of time are present, future, and past. Tri Kala Gya. Gya means to know. So he knows past, present, and future. As well as we may know something present, which is imperfect. He knows perfect, and future and past perfect. He has that capacity. He's not bound by time and space. His knowing is not. It's a gift given to him by Krishna. So he was able to describe things that he wasn't there to experience because he could experience going forward or back in time.
Krishna Maharaj.
You got to hit the button. You on?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was wondering. So you mentioned that the Krishna left the gopis' hearts when they felt pride. Obviously, we're not the gopis, but I was just wondering, is it true that like when you feel extreme sadness or anger, Krishna leaves?
When you do what?
When you feel extreme sadness or anger, Krishna leaves the heart. Is that?
No.
I heard that somewhere. Is that not?
Our consciousness may shut down, but Krishna doesn't leave. He's our dearmost friend. So he doesn't leave. Our consciousness of him becomes blocked, like, a big cloud in the sky blocks the light of the sun, but the sun doesn't go away. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
So pretend this is not about Krishna, but so pretend a moment happens, like like my brother shouts.
Like what happens?
So pretend a moment happens. Like we're looking for something.
You're looking for something.
Yeah. Pretend that happens.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah. So sometimes I feel like that moment already happened.
That already happened.
No, like you feel it's happening right now.
Yeah.
But you feel like it already happened. Why does that happen?
Is it you know what the French expression déjà vu? You know what that expression means? I'm going through an experience, and while I'm going through the experience, there's this thought in the back of my mind that I've been through this before. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you heard the phrase, history repeats itself? Have you heard that before? Yes? Just like, here's an example. It's summer. And, before it was summer, we knew summer was coming because time moves in cycles. So summer, fall, winter, spring, we know what's next because history repeats itself. So in the bigger picture of time, history repeats itself. So something that we're going through now may very well resemble something that there's a memory of that not exactly, but some similar elements took place, and our experience in the moment is connecting with remembrance of something that's stored in my memory bank somewhere over here that's like what I'm experiencing at this moment, because history repeats itself. Time moves in cycles. Day and night, summer, fall, winter, spring, ages of mankind, you have the 4 yugas, and there are smaller circles, medium circles. So it's the remembrance is there because Krishna is in the heart, and he's the source of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. You can look it up. You have a Bhagavad Gita in the house, right? 15:15, Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is the source of you remembering something that happened long ago. You can't remember the detail, but I've been through this before. And here it is, it's a rerun. History repeats itself. Time moves in cycles. And now this is bringing some faint remembrance of that. That's Super Soul. But not remembering, that's also from Super Soul. Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So how do we take these pastimes in our life? Should we, should we just listen to them and just should we?
There's no should. I mean, somebody may just listen to them, but the opportunity, it depends upon us or our orientation towards Krishna. Here's what somebody was sharing with me the other day in one of our morning classes. It's starting to happen as I'm hearing. I'm paying more attention to detail. Just like, take for example, you're not this body. Now that's Bhagavad Gita 101, chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. So as we progress, what that means and the implication of it, and what to speak of the experience of it, and living in that consciousness, it's going to be a different. It evolves. So there's not a should. In the beginning, it's just like, here, you're not the body, and scratch your head, say, I don't get it. Or whatever somebody's response is. And Prabhupada would say, try to understand. So as you try to understand, it can deepen what your understanding is. So similar to the pastimes. Minimally, it's like taking a bath. Why do we take a bath? Because we know it's hygiene. You take a bath. You brush your teeth because it's good to brush your teeth. So we hear because it's purifying. What we understand or don't understand a lot depends upon our orientation towards Krishna, and like this example of appreciating details. There's moods of love, and there are features about Krishna's activities that stimulate that love. There's a Sanskrit term, udipan. It means stimulations of ecstatic love. So if you're on this level, then hearing these things, you're rolling on the ground, and your hairs are standing on end, and tears are coming from your eyes. And that's, it's not exactly should. That's what their consciousness is experiencing. They're experiencing ecstatic love for Krishna just by hearing. So for us, it depends on where we are. Appreciate the sweetness. That's the emphasis that's with this last section. And how that strikes our heart depends upon us. But appreciate Krishna is very sweet and diverse in that sweetness. Sometimes with his friends, sometimes with the elders, sometimes with the cows, sometimes with the gopis, sometimes and sometimes. It's like that word sometimes kept being used. So that's his nature. So there's some appreciation. He's very sweet. And exchanges with all are very sweet.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very nice.
Then there's other features, his opulence feature and his compassion feature. And so try to understand the nature of the person who we're on a journey trying to get closer to. It's a worthy journey. He's worthy of our shelter. There's no should. It's how it strikes your heart. Try to hear attentively and then feel how it strikes your heart. And it will change from, time to time.
So because of the blocks in our heart and impurities, we are not able to feel the emotions and...
Yes. Yeah. It's already there. It's just covered. Like somebody that's got fever. They're not hungry. You offer them something. No. When they're healthy, sure. But when we're in this diseased condition, we don't feel attraction. It's just the diseased condition. So what do you do when you have a diseased condition? You take medicine. Follow the doctor's prescription. To get well, take medicine. No? Mataji, you have something? You want to share anything? No, you're good. Okay. So that's online questions?
Yes, Maharaj. There is only one online.
Okay, fine.
Question by Shri Devi Mataji. Why is Kartik also the month of Srimati Radharani?
Why is Kartik the month of Srimati Radharani?
Yeah.
I don't. You have to ask Radharani. I thought it was the month of Damodar, but I don't know that it is the month of Radharani, and if it is, why, I don't know. Krishna. So we're done. Prabhupada ki jai.